The chapel was empty when Dr. Gabrielle Morrison pushed open the heavy wooden door at 2:47 a.m. She wasn't religious, hadn't been since the day she'd stood in an operating room and watched her 5-year-old son die on the table while she was powerless to save him. But the chapel was quiet, and after 18 hours of back-to-back surgeries, quiet was what she needed. The room was small, dimly lit by a single stained glass window that caught the parking lot lights and turned them into fractured colors across the pews. Gabrielle walked to the front row and sat down heavily, her scrubs still marked with the blood of her last patient. A 53-year-old man who'd survived a triple bypass because she'd been perfect, precise, unfailing. She was always perfect. She had to be, because the one time she hadn't been, her son had paid the price. Gabrielle closed her eyes and let the silence wash over her. She didn't pray. She just existed in the dark, letting herself be something other than Dr. Morrison, chief of cardiothoracic surgery. Letting herself be something other than the woman who'd lost everything and filled the void with excellence. That's when she heard it. A sound so broken, so raw, it cut through the silence like a scalpel. Someone was crying. Not the quiet tears of grief held politely in check. This was the sound of a person shattering. Deep, gasping sobs that came from somewhere primal and desperate. Gabrielle's eyes snapped open. In the back corner of the chapel, barely visible in the shadows, was a man. He was bent forward, elbows on his knees, face buried in his hands. His shoulders shook with each breath. She should leave. Give him privacy. This wasn't her problem, but something about the way he was crying, like his entire world had just ended, kept her frozen in place. Before we continue, tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. The man lifted his head slightly, dragging his hands down his face. Even in the dim light, Gabrielle could see he was black, maybe mid-30s, with a fresh fade and exhausted eyes. He wore jeans and a wrinkled button-down shirt, and there was a visitor's badge clipped to his pocket. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice hoarse and broken. He'd noticed her. "I didn't know anyone was here. I can leave." "No." The word came out before Gabrielle could stop it. "Stay. It's okay." He looked at her for a long moment, and Gabrielle saw something in his expression that she recognized intimately. The face of someone who'd been holding it together for too long and had finally reached the breaking point. "You work here?" he asked, nodding at her scrubs. "I'm a surgeon. You?" "I'm nobody, just a father whose daughter is upstairs in the PICU." His voice cracked on the word daughter. "They took her into surgery 4 hours ago. Emergency heart surgery. The surgeon said it would take 6 to 8 hours, and I couldn't sit in that waiting room anymore. Couldn't. Watch the other families with their hope and their prayers, when I know that sometimes prayers don't mean anything." Gabrielle felt something twist in her chest. "What's your daughter's name?" "Lily. She's 7. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and showed Gabrielle the lock screen. A little girl with 2 puffs and a gap-toothed smile, holding up a drawing of a rainbow. "She has a congenital heart defect. We've known since she was born. The doctors said she'd need surgery eventually, but we were managing it with medication. And then, 3 days ago, she collapsed at school." His hands were trembling so badly he almost dropped the phone. "I'm a janitor at Riverside Elementary. I was in the building. I heard the commotion and I ran, and she was on the floor and she was so pale and—" He broke off, pressing his fist against his mouth to stop the sob. Gabrielle moved without thinking. She crossed the aisle and sat down next to him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "I'm sorry," he said again. "You don't need to hear this." "What's your name?" "Julian. Julian Carter." "Julian, I'm Gabrielle." She didn't add the doctor title. Right now, she wasn't Dr. Morrison. She was just a woman who understood exactly what he was feeling. "And, for what it's worth, you're not nobody. You're a father who loves his daughter. That's everything." Julian looked at her, tears streaming down his brown face. "What if she doesn't make it? What if I lose her? She's all I have left. Her mother died when she was 2, breast cancer. It was just us for 5 years, and she's so brave and so smart, and she keeps telling me not to worry, that she's going to be fine. But what if she's not fine? What if I'm sitting here and she's upstairs dying and I'm not with her? His voice rose to something desperate. What if the last thing I said to her before they put her under wasn't enough? I told her I loved her, but what if she needed to hear something else? What if— Julian. Gabrielle grabbed his hand without thinking. His hand was rough, calloused from years of work, and it was freezing cold. Listen to me. Whatever happens, Lily knows you love her. Children always know. And she's not alone up there. She has an entire team fighting for her. But what if they're not good enough? The question hung in the air, brutal and honest. Gabrielle could have given him the standard reassurances. She could have told him that the surgeons at Mercy General were excellent, that pediatric cardiac surgery had incredible success rates, that he needed to have faith. But she'd been where he was. She'd sat in this exact kind of darkness. And she'd learned that platitudes meant nothing when your child's life hung in the balance. Sometimes, Gabrielle said quietly, they're not good enough. Sometimes doctors make mistakes. Sometimes people die even when everyone does everything right. I can't promise you that Lily will be okay. Julian's face crumpled. But, Gabrielle continued, squeezing his hand, I can tell you that giving up hope right now doesn't protect you from pain. It just means you suffer twice, once now, and once if the worst happens. So, if you're going to feel something, feel the hope. Let yourself believe she's going to make it, because the alternative is living in the worst moment before you even know if it's real. Julian stared at her. You sound like you know what this feels like. I do. He hesitated. Did they make it? Gabrielle felt the familiar ache, the one that never fully went away. No. My son died during surgery. I was the surgeon. Julian's expression shifted to something beyond shock. Oh my God. It was 3 years ago. He had a congenital heart defect, too. I thought I could save him. I thought being his mother and his surgeon gave me some kind of power over fate. Gabrielle's voice was steady, clinical. She'd told this story so many times it had lost its ability to destroy her. I was wrong, and I've spent 3 years being perfect because I can't afford to be wrong again. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I'm telling you because I need you to understand something. Gabrielle turned to face him fully. When I lost Cameron, I had to decide whether to let that loss define me or drive me. I chose drive. I became the best surgeon in this hospital because I couldn't save my son, but I can save everyone else's. She paused. You're going to have to make a choice too, Julian. If Lily makes it through this, and I'm betting she will, you're going to have to decide what kind of father you want to be on the other side of this fear. One who lives in constant terror of losing her, or one who treasures every single day you get? Julian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, What if I don't get the chance to choose? What if she dies tonight? Then you grieve, and you survive, because that's what we do. But you don't start grieving before you know you have to. They sat in silence, Gabrielle still holding Julian's hand. She didn't know why she was still here. She didn't know why this stranger's pain had cut through her carefully constructed walls. But something about Julian's honest, raw fear reminded her that she was still human beneath the surgical masks and perfect success rates. Can I ask you something? Julian said finally. Yes. Do you ever forgive yourself? For not being able to save him? Gabrielle felt the question land in her chest like a punch. No, but I'm learning to live with it. How? By making sure no other parent has to feel what I felt. By being so good that when I walk into an OR, death doesn't stand a chance. Julian nodded slowly. That sounds lonely. It is. You should have someone to help carry that. Gabrielle smiled sadly. I did, my husband. But grief is a lonely thing. even when you're experiencing it together. We couldn't save each other. The marriage didn't survive. I'm sorry. Don't be. We both did the best we could." Julianne looked down at their joined hands. "Thank you for sitting with me. I don't know why you did, but I needed this. Needed someone to tell me the truth instead of giving me false hope. I didn't give you false hope. I gave you real hope. There's a difference." Before Julian could respond, the chapel door opened. A nurse in blue scrubs stepped inside, scanning the room. When she spotted Julian, her face shifted into a practiced expression of cautious optimism. "Mr. Carter?" Julian stood so fast he nearly fell. Gabrielle stood with him, steadying him with a hand on his elbow. "Is she?" "She's out of surgery. Dr. Patel wants to speak with you. Can you come with me?" Julian turned to Gabrielle, his eyes wide with terror and hope. Can you come with me? Please, I don't think I can hear this alone." Gabrielle should have said no. This wasn't her patient. This wasn't her responsibility. She'd already crossed a dozen professional boundaries just by sitting here. But she looked at Julian's face and saw the same desperate plea she'd once made to a stranger when Cameron was dying. "Please don't make me face this alone." No one had stayed with her that day. "Yes," Gabrielle said. "I'll come with you." They followed the nurse through the sterile hallways of Mercy General's cardiac wing. Julian walked like a man heading to his own execution, his hands shaking, his breathing shallow. Gabrielle stayed close, her presence a silent anchor. They were led to a small consultation room. Dr. Amit Patel was already there, still in his surgical scrubs, his face lined with exhaustion. He was a good surgeon. Gabrielle knew him professionally, but she also knew that good didn't always mean enough. "Mr. Carter," Dr. Patel said, standing. Then he noticed Gabrielle. "Dr. Morrison? I didn't know you were involved in this case." "I'm not. I'm here as a friend." Dr. Patel's eyebrows rose slightly, but he nodded and turned his attention back to Julian. "Please, sit down." Julian sat. Gabrielle sat beside him. "Lily made it through surgery," Dr. Patel said. Julian's entire body sagged with relief. A sound escaped him, half sob, half laugh, and he covered his face with his hands. "However," Dr. Patel continued, and Julian's head snapped up, "the surgery was more complicated than we anticipated. Lily's heart had more damage than the initial scans showed. We were able to repair the defect, but her heart is weak. She's in critical condition in the PICU. The next 48 hours are crucial." "But she's alive," Julian whispered. "Yes, she's alive. And she's a fighter, Mr. Carter. But I need you to understand that she's not out of the woods yet." Julian nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Can I see her?" "Soon. She's being stabilized now. We'll come get you in about an hour." "Thank you. Thank you so much." Dr. Patel stood. "Get some rest if you can. She's going to need you when she wakes up." After he left, Julian turned to Gabrielle. "She made it. She actually made it. I told you to hope." Julian laughed, the sound watery and overwhelmed. "You did? God, I feel like I can breathe again." Gabrielle stood. "I should let you—" "Wait." Julian stood too, catching her hand. "I don't even know how to thank you. You didn't have to sit with me. You didn't have to come here. But you did, and I don't think I could have heard that news alone. You would have been fine. No, I really wouldn't have." Julian's dark eyes were intense, searching. "Can I ask you something else?" "Yes." "Why did you help me? You don't know me, and I know you said you lost your son, but you could have just told me to have faith and walked away. Why didn't you?" Gabrielle was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Because 3 years ago, I was falling apart in a hospital chapel, and no one stopped. No one sat with me. And I've thought about that night every day since, about how different it might have been if someone had just stayed." Julian's expression softened. "You stayed for me because no one stayed for you." "Yes." "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard." Gabrielle smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It's life. We carry our pain until we figure out what to do with it. I figured out I could use mine to help other people carry theirs. Julian looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You're extraordinary. You know that. Gabrielle felt something flutter in her chest, something she hadn't felt in 3 years, something that felt dangerously close to connection. I should go, she said, pulling her hand back. You need to be here for Lily. Will I see you again? Gabrielle hesitated. Every instinct told her to say no, to walk away from this man and his daughter and the messy, complicated emotions they were stirring up. But she looked at Julian, at his exhausted face and his hopeful eyes, and found herself saying, I'll check on Lily tomorrow, make sure she's getting the best care. Julian's face lit up. Thank you, really, for everything. Gabrielle nodded and turned to leave. But as she walked down the hallway toward the exit, she realized something had shifted inside her. For 3 years, she'd existed in a state of careful numbness. She'd performed surgery after surgery, saved life after life, and felt nothing beyond clinical satisfaction. But tonight, sitting in that chapel with Julian Carter, she'd felt something real. And that terrified her more than any surgery ever could. Gabrielle didn't sleep. She went home to her sterile, perfectly decorated penthouse overlooking the city, took a shower, changed into fresh clothes, and was back at the hospital by 6 a.m. She told herself it was because she had surgeries scheduled. She told herself it had nothing to do with a little girl named Lily or her father with the broken, honest eyes. She was lying. By 7:30 a.m., Gabrielle found herself standing outside the PICU, staring through the glass at the rows of beds where the hospital's most fragile patients fought for their lives. She spotted Lily immediately. Bed 7, connected to more machines than a 7-year-old should ever have to be connected to. Her small chest rose and fell with mechanical precision, the ventilator breathing for her. And sitting beside her bed, holding her tiny hand, was Julian. He looked like he hadn't moved all night. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes red-rimmed with exhaustion. But he was talking to her. Gabrielle could see his lips moving, telling his unconscious daughter stories or promises or prayers. Gabrielle's pager buzzed. Her first surgery was in 30 minutes. She should go prep. Instead, she swiped her badge and walked into the PICU. The unit was quiet except for the rhythmic beeping of monitors and the soft whoosh of ventilators. Gabrielle approached Lily's bed slowly, not wanting to startle Julian. He looked up when he heard her footsteps. His face transformed when he recognized her. Dr. Morrison, you came? I said I would. Gabrielle looked down at Lily. Even unconscious and intubated, the little girl was beautiful. Her hair was pulled back into 2 small puffs, and someone, Julian probably, had placed a stuffed unicorn next to her pillow. How is she doing? They said her vitals are stable. That's good, right? Gabrielle glanced at the monitors. Heart rate steady, blood pressure acceptable, oxygen saturation good. Yes, that's very good. She hasn't woken up yet. They said it might take time because of the anesthesia and the pain medication, but Julian's voice caught. I just want to see her eyes open. Want to hear her complain about the hospital food or ask me when she can go home. Gabrielle pulled up a chair and sat down on the other side of Lily's bed. Tell me about her, when she's not in a hospital bed. Julian's face softened. She's a force of nature, talks nonstop, wants to be a veterinarian because she loves animals more than people. She's teaching herself Spanish from YouTube videos because she says she wants to be able to talk to everyone. He laughed quietly. Last month, she informed me that I needed to learn how to do more complicated hairstyles because 2 puffs were basic, and she wanted goddess locks like her best friend Zara. Did you learn? I tried. Watched about 50 YouTube tutorials. My first attempt looked like a bird's nest. Lily told me I needed more practice, but she appreciated my effort. Julian's smile faded slightly. She's always been like that. Brave, encouraging. Even when she was scared about the surgery, she kept telling me it would be okay. that she was strong enough to handle it. She is strong. I can see it. Julian looked at Gabrielle. How can you tell? 7-year-olds with her condition don't usually make it to surgery without significant interventions. The fact that she's been managing with medication alone means her heart is a fighter, just like her father. Julian shook his head. I'm not a fighter. I'm just a man trying not to fall apart. That's what fighting looks like sometimes. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both watching Lily's small chest rise and fall. Can I ask you something? Julian said finally. Yes. Last night you said you became a surgeon to save everyone else's children. Do you ever... He hesitated. Do you ever let yourself be anything other than a surgeon? Do you have a life outside these walls? Gabrielle felt the question hit deeper than he probably intended. No, not really. That's not living. That's just existing. It's enough. Is it? Julian's voice was gentle but challenging. Because last night, in that chapel, you looked just as broken as I felt. And I'm guessing it's not just because of your son. I'm guessing it's because you've spent 3 years putting all your pain into saving strangers, and none of it into saving yourself. Gabrielle's throat tightened. You don't know me. You're right. But I know what grief looks like when someone's wearing it like armor. And you're wearing it so thick, I'm amazed you can still breathe. Before Gabrielle could respond, Lily's monitor beeped differently. They both looked up. Lily's eyelids were fluttering. Lily! Julian stood, leaning over the bed. Baby girl? Can you hear me? Lily's eyes opened slowly. Dark brown, confused, scared. She tried to speak, but the breathing tube prevented it. Panic flooded her face. It's okay, sweetheart, Julian said quickly, stroking her hand. You're okay. You had surgery, remember? The tube in your mouth is helping you breathe. They'll take it out soon, I promise. Just stay calm. Lily's eyes found her father's face and some of the panic eased. Then her gaze drifted to Gabrielle. Gabrielle smiled. Hi, Lily. I'm Dr. Morrison. I'm a friend of your dad's. You're very brave. Lily's eyes moved between them, questioning. Yes, she's nice, Julian said, understanding the unspoken question. She sat with me last night when I was scared, made sure I didn't fall apart. Lily blinked once, slowly. Even through the medication in the tube, Gabrielle could see the intelligence in her eyes. This little girl knew exactly what was happening, and she was assessing everything. A nurse approached. Mr. Carter, Dr. Patel is making rounds. He'll want to evaluate Lily now that she's awake. Julian nodded, but didn't let go of Lily's hand. I'm not leaving. Of course not. Gabrielle stood. I should go. I have surgeries. Julian caught her arm gently. Thank you for coming back. Take care of her. I will. Julian's eyes held hers for a moment longer than necessary. Will you come back again? Gabrielle knew she should say no. Every boundary she'd carefully constructed over the past 3 years was already crumbling. Getting more involved was dangerous. But she looked at Lily, at this brave little girl who reminded her so much of Cameron, and heard herself say, Yes, I'll come back. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Gabrielle's first surgery was a routine valve replacement. Her second was a complex bypass. Her third was an emergency aortic dissection that took 6 hours and required every ounce of her skill and focus. By the time she finished, it was after 8 p.m. She should have gone home, should have eaten something, slept, prepared for tomorrow's surgeries. Instead, she found herself walking back to the PICU. Lily was awake now, the breathing tube removed. She looked small and fragile propped up against pillows, but she was talking to Julian in a hoarse whisper. When Gabrielle approached, both of them looked up. Dr. Morrison. Lily's voice was rough but enthusiastic. Daddy said you're the best surgeon in the whole hospital. Gabrielle glanced at Julian, who had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. He did? Yep. He said you saved his life last night, even though you're not that kind of doctor. I'm a heart surgeon, and I didn't save your dad's life. Lily shook her head seriously. Yes, you did. Daddy said he was falling apart, and you helped him put the pieces back together. That's saving someone. Gabrielle felt something crack in her chest. Your dad seems like he does pretty well at putting himself together. He pretends, Lily said matter-of-factly. But I know he cries sometimes at night when he thinks I'm asleep. He misses Mommy, and he worries about me all the time. He needs someone to help him not be so sad. Lily, Julian said quietly, his face flushing. Dr. Morrison doesn't need to hear this. Why not? You said she was your friend. Friends help each other not be sad. Gabrielle sat down in the visitor's chair. Your dad told me you want to be a veterinarian. Lily's face lit up. The subject changed successful. Yes, I love animals, especially dogs. Daddy says when I'm better, we can get a puppy, a big one that I can cuddle with. That sounds wonderful. Do you have any pets, Dr. Morrison? Gabrielle shook her head. No. I work too much. That's sad. Everyone needs something to love that's not work. Lily looked at her seriously. My teacher says that people who work all the time are running away from something. Are you running away from something? Julian winced. Lily, that's not an appropriate question. But Gabrielle was staring at this 7-year-old who had just cut through 3 years of carefully constructed defenses with childlike honesty. Yes, Gabrielle said simply. I am. From what? From remembering what it feels like to lose someone you love. Lily nodded like this made perfect sense. Daddy does that too. That's why he works 2 jobs. He thinks if he's busy enough, he won't have time to be sad. But it doesn't work because the sad is always there when you stop moving. Gabrielle looked at Julian. He was staring at his daughter with a mixture of love and devastation. You're very wise, Lily, Gabrielle said softly. I know. Lily smiled, then winced. Ow, my chest hurts. I'll get the nurse, Julian said immediately, pressing the call button. While they waited, Lily looked at Gabrielle. Do you like my daddy? Lily. Julian's voice was strangled. What? I'm just asking. You came back to see him. That means you like him. Gabrielle felt her face heat. I came back to check on you. Uh-huh. Lily's expression was knowing. That's what Daddy says too when he talks about you. I'm just worried about Dr. Morrison. She seems lonely. I hope she's okay. But I know he likes you because he uses his special voice. I do not have a special voice, Julian protested. Yes, you do. It gets all soft and gentle. You used it with Mommy, too. The nurse arrived before anyone could respond, and Gabrielle used the distraction to escape. She made it halfway down the hallway before Julian caught up with her. Dr. Morrison, Gabrielle, wait. She stopped and turned. Julian looked mortified. I'm so sorry. Lily doesn't have a filter. She just says whatever she's thinking, and it's fine. It's not fine. She basically just told you that I've been talking about you, which makes me sound like some kind of creep who... Julian. Gabrielle held up a hand. It's fine. She's 7, and she's right. Julian blinked. About what? About both of us running. About work being an escape. About the sad always being there when we stop moving. Gabrielle took a breath. Your daughter is remarkably perceptive. Yeah, it's one of her superpowers, along with making me completely lose my dignity in front of beautiful women. The words hung in the air between them. Julian's eyes went wide as he realized what he'd said. I mean, that's not... I didn't mean to. It's okay, Gabrielle said, and she found herself smiling. Really smiling for the first time in longer than she could remember. I should go. Gabrielle. She stopped again. Can I buy you coffee or dinner as a thank you for everything you've done? Every instinct screamed at her to say no, to maintain professional boundaries. to protect herself from caring about people who could hurt her. But she looked at Julian, at his honest face and his worried eyes and the way he was trying so hard to be strong for his daughter while falling apart inside, and she thought about Lily's words. Everyone needs something to love that's not work. Yes, Gabrielle said. Coffee, tomorrow, if Lily's stable. Julian's face transformed. Really? Really? But Julian. She paused. I'm not good at this, at letting people in. I've spent 3 years building walls, and I don't know if I remember how to take them down. That's okay. I'm not good at this either. Haven't been on anything resembling a date since my wife died. We can be terrible at it together. Gabrielle laughed, and the sound surprised her. Okay. We'll be terrible together. The next day, Lily's condition improved dramatically. By evening, she was sitting up, eating popsicles, and teaching Julian a TikTok dance she'd learned before her surgery. Gabrielle stopped by after her last surgery and found them laughing together, Julian attempting moves his body was definitely not designed for, while Lily giggled until she hiccuped. Dr. Morrison, Lily waved enthusiastically. Come dance with us. I don't dance. Everyone dances. You just have to try. Gabrielle found herself smiling as she watched Julian attempt something called the gritty, with absolutely no rhythm whatsoever. Your dad's terrible at this. I know, that's what makes it funny. Julian collapsed into a chair, breathing hard and laughing. Lily, you're going to kill me. You're young, you can handle it. I'm 36, that's basically elderly in TikTok years. Lily rolled her eyes. Daddy, you're being dramatic. Watching them together, Gabrielle felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy at seeing two people love each other so completely. So, Julian said, looking at Gabrielle, coffee? Let me change out of my scrubs first. 20 minutes later, they sat in the hospital cafeteria. Not romantic, but private enough. Julian had 2 cups of terrible coffee and a plate of cookies that Lily had insisted he bring, in case Dr. Morrison needs emotional support sugar. Your daughter is something special, Gabrielle said. Julian's expression softened. She is. I don't know how I got so lucky. Her mom, Angela, she was like that too. Could light up a whole room just by being in it. He paused. I miss her every day. But Lily makes it bearable. She's the best of both of us. How did Angela die? Breast cancer. It was aggressive. By the time they found it, it had already spread. She fought for 18 months, but his voice caught. Lily was only 2. She doesn't remember much about her mom. Sometimes I'll tell her stories, and she looks at me like I'm describing a fairy tale character instead of the woman who gave birth to her. That must be hard. It is, but I make sure she knows Angela. We have photo albums, videos, stories. I want Lily to know where she came from, to know she was wanted, loved, that her mom would have moved heaven and earth for her if she'd had more time. Gabrielle felt tears prick her eyes. You're a good father, Julian. I'm trying. Most days I feel like I'm failing, like I'm not enough. Not parent enough, not provider enough, not strong enough. He looked down at his coffee. I'm a janitor. I clean schools for a living. Lily deserves a father who can give her more than scraped-together medical bills and thrift store clothes. Lily deserves a father who loves her. Everything else is secondary. Julian met her eyes. You really believe that? Yes, because I grew up with everything money could buy, and neither of my parents loved me the way you love Lily. They loved their careers, their status, their image. I was just an obligation, a trophy daughter who went to the right schools, and married the right man, and became the right kind of successful. Gabrielle's voice turned bitter. And when my son died, they told me to move on, to focus on my career, to not let one tragedy define me. That's cruel. That's my family. Love was transactional. Success was the only currency that mattered. She paused. When Cameron died, my mother asked me when I was planning to have another child. Said I couldn't let this setback derail my future. She actually called my son's death a setback. Julian reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be. It taught me that what you give Lily, that unconditional love, that presence, that devotion, is worth more than anything I grew up with. You're not failing her, Julian. You're giving her everything that matters." They sat in silence for a moment, hands joined across the table. "Can I tell you something?" Julian said quietly. "Yes." "Last night when Lily woke up and saw you there, she asked me later who you were, and I told her you were someone special, someone who helped me when I needed it most, and she said, 'Good. You need someone special, Daddy. You've been alone long enough.'" Gabrielle felt her heart skip. "Julian, I know this is fast. I know we just met, but there's something about you that makes me feel less alone for the first time in 5 years, and I don't know what to do with that." "Neither do I," Gabrielle admitted. "I've spent 3 years making sure I never feel anything for anyone. It's safer that way." "But you feel something now." Gabrielle looked at their joined hands. "Yes, and it terrifies me." "Me too." Julian smiled slightly. "Want to be terrified together?" "I thought we were going to be terrible together." "We can be both, terrified and terrible. It's very on-brand for single parents with trauma." Gabrielle laughed, and it felt like breaking open, like 3 years of ice finally cracking. "Okay, let's be terrified and terrible together." Julian lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles gently. The gesture was old-fashioned, tender, and it made Gabrielle's breath catch. "Thank you," he said, "for seeing me, for seeing Lily, for not running away from 2 broken people who probably need more than they can offer in return. You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference." "So are you." Gabrielle realized he was right. For 3 years, she told herself she was fine, that she'd moved on, that work was enough. But sitting here with Julian, feeling his hand in hers, watching him be vulnerable and honest and scared, she realized she'd been lying to herself. She wasn't fine, but maybe, with someone else who understood that kind of pain, she could start to be. 3 days later, Lily was moved out of the PICU into a regular pediatric room. The improvement was remarkable. She was sitting up, coloring and plotting her escape from the hospital with the strategic mind of a tiny general. "Daddy, I've been thinking," Lily said, holding up a drawing of what appeared to be her and a very large dog. "When I get home, we need to get that puppy immediately, for my recovery. The doctor said I need things that make me happy." Julian laughed, sitting on the edge of her bed. "Did the doctor actually say that, or are you making strategic health claims?" "Dr. Morrison," Lily called out as Gabrielle walked into the room. "Tell Daddy that puppies are medically necessary for healing." Gabrielle tried to keep a straight face. "I don't recall that being in any medical literature." "But doesn't happiness help people heal?" "It does," Gabrielle admitted. "And don't puppies make people happy?" "Generally, yes." Lily turned to Julian triumphantly. "See? Dr. Morrison agrees. Puppies are medicine." "That's not what she said, and you know it," Julian said, but he was grinning. Gabrielle watched them banter and felt something settle in her chest. This was what family looked like. Not the cold, transactional relationship she'd grown up with, but this: warmth, laughter, love that didn't need to be earned. "Dr. Morrison, do you want to color with us?" Lily held up a fresh piece of paper. "I'm making you a picture to hang in your office." "I'd love that, but I have rounds." "After rounds?" Gabrielle found herself nodding. "After rounds." As she left, Julian followed her into the hallway. "She's getting attached to you," he said quietly. "So am I. And I need to know. Is this real for you? Or are we just a project? 2 broken people you're fixing because you couldn't fix your son." The words could have been cruel, but Julian's tone was gentle, scared. Gabrielle turned to face him fully. "At first? Maybe. Maybe you were. But not anymore." She took a breath. "I haven't let myself care about anyone in 3 years, Julian. And now I care about you, about Lily. And yes, it terrifies me, but it's real. What happens when Lily goes home? When we don't have the hospital as neutral ground? Then we figure out what this looks like in the real world. If you want to. Julian stepped closer. I want to. But I need you to know. I'm a package deal. Lily comes first. Always. I wouldn't respect you if she didn't. And I'm a janitor. I don't have money or status or anything that someone like you is probably used to. Gabrielle felt something fierce rise in her chest. Julian Carter, listen to me. I grew up with money and status. I married money and status. And none of it meant anything when my world fell apart. You have something infinitely more valuable. You have integrity. You have love. You have a daughter who thinks you hung the moon. That's worth more than anything in my bank account. Julian's eyes were wet. You really mean that? Yes. He pulled her into a hug, right there in the hospital hallway, and Gabrielle let herself be held. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't Dr. Morrison, the untouchable surgeon. She was just Gabrielle, being held by someone who saw her. 2 weeks later, Lily was discharged. Gabrielle stood in the hospital parking lot, watching Julian load his daughter into a borrowed car. His brother's, he'd explained, since he couldn't afford his own. You'll come visit, right? Lily called out the window. You promised. I promised, Gabrielle confirmed. She kept that promise. The next evening, she showed up at Julian's apartment with takeout and a stuffed puppy that was medically necessary for recovery. The apartment was small, one bedroom that Julian had given to Lily while he slept on the couch. The furniture was worn, but clean. There were pictures everywhere. Angela, Lily, as a baby. Family moments frozen in time. It's not much, Julian said, looking embarrassed. It's full of love, that's everything. They ate dinner on the floor because Lily insisted it was more fun. They watched a movie about talking dogs. And when Lily fell asleep on the couch between them, her head on Gabrielle's lap, Julian looked at Gabrielle with such tenderness it made her breath catch. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For being here. For not running. For letting us in. Gabrielle looked down at Lily's sleeping face, then at Julian. Thank you for showing me what family actually looks like. The hospital chapel looked different in daylight. Gabrielle stood at the entrance, Julian beside her, both dressed in formal clothes. You ready? Julian asked. Are you? Terrified, but in a good way. They walked inside together. Cameron's memorial plaque hung on the wall, something Gabrielle had installed years ago but never visited. Today felt different. Hi, baby, Gabrielle whispered, touching the plaque. I want you to meet someone. This is Julian and his daughter Lily. They've helped Mama remember how to be happy again. I think you'd really like them. Julian squeezed her hand. I'll never stop missing you, Gabrielle continued, but I'm learning that I can miss you and still live, still love, still be more than grief. Tears streamed down her face. I hope that's okay. I hope you'd want that for me. Outside, in the hospital parking lot, Lily was waiting with Gabrielle's ex-husband, who'd agreed to drop her off. When she saw them, she ran over. Did you do it? Did you talk to Cameron? I did. What did he say? Gabrielle knelt down. I think he said it's okay for me to be happy, that he wants his mama to live. Lily threw her arms around Gabrielle's neck. Good, because we need you. That evening, in Julian's apartment, soon to be their apartment once Gabrielle's lease ended, they sat together on the couch. Lily was sprawled across both their laps, the puppy they'd finally adopted sleeping at their feet. Is this really happening? Julian asked quietly. Are you really moving in with us? If you'll have me. Lily made you a drawer months ago. She's been planning this. Gabrielle laughed. Of course she has. Lily stirred, opening her eyes. Are you guys being mushy again? Maybe, Julian said. Good, you should be. Mushy. You love each other. Gabrielle looked at Julian. They hadn't said the words yet, but Lily was right as she usually was. "I do love you," Gabrielle said. "Both of you." Julian's face broke into the most beautiful smile. "We love you too. So much." Lily sat up. "Does this mean you're my mom now?" Gabrielle felt her heart skip. "I could never replace your first mom, but if you want, I want you to be my second mom, my bonus mom. Is that okay?" Gabrielle pulled Lily close, tears streaming. "That's more than okay. That's perfect." Julian wrapped his arms around both of them, and they sat there. A family built from broken pieces, held together by love and second chances. Sometimes healing comes from the places you least expect. Sometimes the person crying in a chapel at 2 a.m. needs saving just as much as you do. And sometimes the greatest gift is letting someone help you carry your grief until it becomes something bearable. Gabrielle had spent 3 years running from pain. But in Julian and Lily, she'd found something better than escape. She'd found home. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.